everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I went to the House Judiciary site, and guess what the Republicans have on their particular part of the website? Collins to Nadler, Mueller did not punt investigation to Congress. And then it has the full story, which is a letter that Doug Collins wrote to Jerry Nadler. Now, Doug Collins is the ranking member, which is the top Republican on this committee. And Jerry Nadler is currently the chairman, the little power-mad chairman of this committee. So, anyway, here's what it has to say, and this came out on the 22nd. Dear Mr. Chairman, over the past several days, you and many of your Democrat colleagues have been promoting a wildly inaccurate narrative about what Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III stated in his March 2019 report to the Attorney General on the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election report. You claim the report states the special counsel wanted Congress to decide whether the president committed obstruction of justice. For example, last Friday on Good Morning America, you stated, the special prosecutor made very clear that he couldn't reach a determination on obstruction of justice, but that he laid it out for Congress to do it. You later stated on the same show, the special prosecutor invited Congress to look into that. However, a plain reading of the report does not at all indicate, let alone make very clear, as you claim, the special counsel intended for Congress to decide whether President Trump obstructed justice. In fact, it is the exact opposite. Boy, the Democrats are just so good at doing that, aren't they? It's almost like you can take whatever they say and just flip it over to the opposite and you're good. I trust by now that you have thoroughly read the entire report from the special counsel's 22-month investigation. I really like the way he puts these little digs in there, and that's one of the digs. I trust by now you've thoroughly read this report. As such, you would recognize the passages in question on page 8 of Volume 2 are a summary of a lengthier legal discussion on pages 168 to 180 of Volume 2 at the very back of the entire report. The passages are not, in fact, an invitation for Congress to pick up where the report left off. Now, I want to point out to you, if you go to the Mueller Report, I'll put the link down below, as usual. I'll have the letter down there, too, and you can read them for yourself. But I want to point out to you that the Mueller Report has Volume 1 and 2 in the entire document. And so the pages are not going to line up, and actually Volume 2, which is the part about the obstruction of justice, starts on page 208 of the PDF. So even though it considers itself like, it starts counting the pages over again, and it has, all the table of contents here, and those are Roman numerals. And then once the table of contents are done, 3, 4, okay, then it starts into the actual text, and this would be page 1. So when he talks about page 8, you're going to have to take that into consideration. So, page 1 here is 213. So go from there. But I wanted to point that out to you just in case you haven't seen that and you thought, well, this is just Volume 1. Where's Volume 2? So Volume 1 is the first 208 pages, and then Volume 2 starts on page 208. Then he goes on and he says, as you are certainly aware, the legislative branch writes the laws and the executive branch enforces them. This simple maxim from Civics 101, I love that dig there, has become a casualty of false claims. Special Counsel Mueller asked Congress to decide whether President Donald Trump obstructed justice. The special counsel did not say that, and would not say that, because Congress is neither a prosecutorial nor judicial body. Those responsibilities lie under the purview of the executive and judicial branches, respectively. So the Democrats are trying to make Congress like this all-powerful part of our government, and it simply isn't. It's 1/3, and they are all equal. So they are in a lot of ways trying to usurp the power of the president. That's what they're really trying to get. See, what happened was you had these deep state people, and they needed the presidency, and they intended for the presidency to be passed down from their chosen one to their chosen one, and that's how they maintained their power. Well, the problem was Donald Trump interrupted that, and they lost that power of the executive branch. So they're trying to regain their power through other means, and that happens to be through the legislative branch. Now, the legislative branch can just make laws. That's what they can do. And I've said this before in previous videos, that the problem with Congress is they can subpoena somebody, but they have no teeth in that subpoena. In other words, if somebody doesn't follow through, they can't do anything to them. They can't prosecute. The executive branch is tasked with enforcing the law. And so they can't prosecute. The Department of Justice prosecutes. And then you have the judicial branch, which rules on those prosecutions. So see, there is this separation that's going on, but right now, the Democrats have the House, and they are acting like they have the entire government because they have that one little thing. And it's not even the full Congress. I mean, they don't have the Senate. So, can you imagine what would have happened if they'd have gotten the Senate? Ooh. I mean, it's bad enough they really got the House. We really should have worked a little harder to try to stop that from happening. But I do think there were some illegalities involved in that, and that it wasn't done honestly. But that's my opinion. Anyway, discussion. Pages 7 through 8 of Volume 2 of the report. And remember, you have to take into consideration those are the pages of the report pages, not the PDF pages. So remember that. Contain a summary of analysis of certain statutory defenses and constitutional defenses to obstruction of justice allegations. The summary, however, is a summary of a more detailed legal analysis of constitutional defenses outlined on pages 168 to 180, and that's near the end. There are also some appendices at the end. One of them has just all the abbreviations that have been used in there. I thought that was kind of funny to see. But yeah, there's a whole list of the players, the people that were involved and have been mentioned in the report. I mean, it's a big, long list. It really is. So kind of interesting. In a lot of ways, I pity the kids that are going to have to learn about this in history class in the future because, oh my goodness, there's such a big number of names that they're going to have to remember. And for us living it right now, I mean, we know who these people are, the major players. Some of us don't even know all the major players, though. Sometimes one of them pops up and it's like, I didn't know who that person was. And you have to learn a little bit about them. But can you imagine 10, 20, 30 years from now, these kids are going to be like, wait, who's Kellyanne Conway again? Anyway, sorry. I digress. So let's go on. This detailed legal analysis confirms the oft-misinterpreted quotes on page 8 are about Congress's ability to legislate generally, not prosecute or enforce the laws in a specific case. In other words, Congress can make laws. They are the legislative branch. And so if something has come up, they can say, well, let's make a law so this never happens again. But they can't make a law that's retroactive and says we're going to punish somebody because they did something in the past. They can't do that. Their laws are effective from the time that they're signed to the future. So it would be something that would be applied to a future president, or if they pass it while Trump is in office, to him from that point forward, but it cannot be used retroactively. So that's what he's talking about here, that they can legislate generally, but they can't prosecute and they can't enforce the laws. That's not their job. According to the report, President Trump's counsel wrote a letter to Special Counsel Mueller arguing that under constitutional principles of separation of powers, a president cannot be found to have obstructed justice by exercising his constitutional authority. The question the special counsel was addressing on pages 7 to 8 and 168 to 180 is whether Congress can validly regulate the president's exercise of official duties to prohibit actions motivated by a corrupt intent to obstruct justice. This is what the passages on page 8 are about, whether Congress has authority generally to regulate a president's conduct in this area, like make laws that a president would have to adhere to. not whether Congress should do it in this instance. The argument is a general one and a legal one in response to a letter from the President's counsel. Okay, so he's making a very big distinction here, which I think is very valid. While acknowledging courts have not definitively resolved these issues, Special Counsel Mueller concluded that Congress has authority to prohibit a president's corrupt use of his authority in order to protect the integrity of the administration of justice. It is unclear why so many Democrats have used this sentence, which includes the word prohibit, indicating forbiddance of a future act, not a past act, to claim the special counsel intended for Congress to make a determination on obstruction of justice in the current matter. This isn't a matter of legal interpretation. It's reading comprehension. There's another one of those digs. I like the way he thinks. He's so subtle about it. I mean, if you're not really paying attention, you don't always see the digs that he's putting in there. The report further states, we concluded that Congress can validly regulate the president's exercise of official duties to prohibit actions motivated by a corrupt intent to obstruct justice. The limited effect on presidential power that results from that restriction would not impermissibly undermine the president's ability to perform his Article II functions. You see, in the Constitution, that does give the president certain abilities. Certain functions that he has to perform. So Congress can't make laws that contradict what the Constitution says the president can do. So that's what he's pointing out here. In other words, Special Counsel Mueller concluded Congress may write obstruction of justice laws that apply to the president, even when the president is exercising facially lawful Article II powers, if those powers are exercised corruptly. That is the crux of the report's summary on page 8, not the special counsel deferring his decision-making authority to Congress. You see, he's making a good distinction here. A review of some of the passages from pages 168 to 180 make the summary on page 7 to 8 crystal clear in recognizing the summaries about congressional lawmaking authority under separation of powers when constitutional tensions exist between the president's official Article II actions and obstruction of justice statutes. For example, on page 171, the report states Congress can validly make obstruction of justice statutes applicable to corruptly motivated official acts of the president without impermissibly undermining his Article II functions. On page 176, the report states Congress has Article I authority to define generally applicable criminal law and apply it to all persons, including the president. Congress clearly has the authority to protect its own legislative functions against corrupt efforts designed to impede legitimate fact-gathering and lawmaking efforts. On page 177, the report states, our assessment of the weighing of interests leads us to conclude that Congress has the authority to impose the limited restrictions contained in those statutes on the president's official conduct to protect the integrity of important functions of other branches of government. Finally, on page 180, the report states, we concluded that, in light of the Supreme Court precedent governing separation of powers issue, we had a valid basis for investigating the conduct at issue in this report. It is this overarching conclusion the summary section on pages 7 through 8 captures. Whether or not any of the president's counsel's legal defenses constituted a basis for the special counsel not to investigate the facts. This section and summary has absolutely nothing to do with Congress either prosecuting the president or a specific intent by the special counsel that Congress continue to investigate the facts previously reviewed over the past 2 years. The absence of any statement asking Congress to serve in a prosecutorial capacity in an obstruction of justice case should not be surprising, because that is not Congress's role. It is the role of the Department of Justice. While everyone agrees that Congress has impeachment authority, that is not what the special counsel is addressing in this context, which is perhaps why you have not dared claim that this report invites you to impeach the president. They have been kind of toning down their impeachment ideas, although I keep seeing a lot of Tom Steyer's ads on YouTube for impeachment. I laugh when I see them. He's paying the bills of a lot of good patriots. It's just funny. As such, when Attorney General Barr said in his April 18, 2019 press conference, Special Counsel Mueller did not indicate that his purpose was to leave the decision to Congress, he was exactly right. As Attorney General Barr said of the Justice Department, we don't convene grand juries and conduct criminal investigations to let Congress make prosecutorial decisions. See, they're not the ones to make that. They make laws. That's what Congress does. The Department of Justice is who prosecutes. He further stated the job of prosecutors is to determine yes or no, was alleged conduct criminal or not criminal. Such was the job performed by Attorney General Barr and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein when they decided not to bring charges of criminal obstruction. That's what they did. They looked at it. They said, well, it's just not going to happen because there's no real clear evidence. Conclusion, your deliberate misrepresentations to the American public threaten the fundamental separation of powers doctrine, are dangerous, and need to stop. The special counsel regulations written by the Clinton Justice Department require only for a special counsel to provide the Attorney General with a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel. Attorney General Barr had discretion whether to share the report with Congress and with the public. In a display of unprecedented transparency, Attorney General Barr has offered to share with you the entire report in accordance with federal law, an offer which you have refused. The Attorney General has gone far beyond what the regulations require, and your continued slandering of the Attorney General, while perhaps politically opportune, is wrong and also must end. Boy, he's really taken Nadler to task here. Moving forward, I urge you to be accurate in your claims before the American public and encourage you to take the Attorney General up on his offer to read the full report. Here's where he gets the digs in again. Given the stakes, dismissing this offer and refusing to review the report you demanded as soon as possible amounts to dereliction of duty. I will be at the Justice Department later today to read the report and hope you will join me in doing so. If you do, I look forward to reading the report and discussing its contents together before we move on to conducting the important work the American people expect from the Judiciary Committee. So he basically says, look, you haven't even read the whole report, Nadler. Go read it. But you know how the Democrats do. You have to pass it before you can read it. So, they haven't read it yet, I'm sure. So there we have it. That's the situation we have right now. And I'll put the links down below for you, this one, and also this, so you can go ahead and read those yourself. But it's, a couple hundred pages of some pretty heavy legal speak in a lot of cases. But you can look over the table of contents. I thought that was kind of interesting. These are some of the claims that they're making. And, this is why it would be obstruction. And yeah, I kind of wonder with the whole firing Comey thing, since Rosenstein was the one that gave Trump a letter before he fired him and urged him to fire Comey, I kind of wonder if that wasn't part of the plan to set Trump up, because Rosenstein's one of them, and he's part of the deep state. And one of the reasons he stayed in until after this report was released was to give it more weight and to attempt to quiet some of the deep state clamoring. But I think he's made a deal. Rosenstein, I'm pretty sure he's made a deal with him, and he is playing along for now, even though he is guilty. But I do think that probably he will get a lesser sentence. Maybe he's made a deal so he doesn't get the death penalty or something. I don't know. But I do think he's made some kind of deal to help out and to, kind of make the transition here. So I don't know what's going on, but I do know he's not going to be around much longer now that this is all out and it's done. So that's our situation with it. And I see the frustration in somebody like this Doug Collins here. I think this has got to be really frustrating to him when he has to work with these people. And he knows what they're doing. and he knows that it's all bogus, that it has no validity whatsoever, and he sees all the evidence that they see, and yet he knows what they're doing with it, that they're twisting it around, and they're not being honest with the American people. And I think that's one of the biggest crimes in his eyes, and, in most of the good people's eyes that are working in Congress. They see this that's going on, and they understand that it's just a lie because they know the truth. They've seen the documents just like the Democrats have. And they know that the Democrats have seen those documents and that they know what the truth is. But then they turn around, they go out to the media, and they tell something different than what's the truth. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.